What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Playbook Sports Podcast. Another week, another mock draft. Wild card round just finished up, meaning even more of these playoff spots are solidified all the way down to pick 24. There's only, 8 teams remaining left, so we're getting closer and closer to having this entire draft order finalized. But I figured no better time than the present to dive right into another mock draft. And there's going to be more and more players in these. The more tape I get to, the more players move throughout this draft. And you're going to see that pretty early on in this draft that I've got guys moving up, maybe going earlier than you would think, maybe some going way later than you would think. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say about that. But let's go ahead and kick this draft off. Pick number 1, Tennessee Titans on the clock. Just fired their general manager, Ran Carthon. I still just don't see any way you go into next season with Will Levis as your starting quarterback. He wasn't even getting all the reps this past year. Mason Rudolph was taking starts from him. If he was the guy going forward, why would you give Mason Rudolph reps? Clearly, Callahan does not believe in him. You've got to start over. And I'm staying with Cam Ward as QB1 for me in this draft class. I think he's a pretty accurate passer, but that's not what you're signing up for with him. You're signing up for the playmaking abilities. Look at the current players teams still in the playoffs in the NFL. 7 of them have mobile quarterbacks. You need a quarterback that can move. Cam Ward can extend plays. He's great outside of structure of plays. I just think he's a good bit better than Shedeur Sanders personally, in my opinion. Now, if with all the needs Tennessee has and with a new GM, I could just see them saying, screw it, we are going to go best player available. And then you can have that debate if that's Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. I'm open to that debate. But I think the best move for Tennessee is to go QB, and I think Cam Ward is far and away QB1 in this class. I'm excited to hear what you guys think about that and QB1 battle. I mean, go watch the tape, man. Cam Ward is just a better athlete, better arm strength. Not as accurate maybe, but we can work on that, man. Give me a guy who can do the crazy things that Shedeur just can't. Cleveland on the clock here, and Deshaun Watson done for the entire season. Do you go with a Shedeur Sanders at pick 2? I got people in the comments telling me Shedeur Sanders will never go to Cleveland. I don't think he's that good of a prospect personally, but I don't think it matters here because I think my favorite player in this draft class, I think the best talent in this draft class, edge rusher, Abdul Carter out of Penn State. The more I watch this guy, the more I think that he has all-pro, top 2 or 3 edge rusher in the NFL upside. He put up fantastic numbers this year in his first year as an edge rusher. I mean, look at these. Let's pull up his stats. 13 sacks, 43 quarterback hurries in his first year as an edge rusher. This is the first time he's ever done this. Put his hand in the dirt and just said, I'm coming after the quarterback. And he put up these numbers in the Big Ten with this PFF grade. Yeah, thanks. Myles Garrett may be on his way out of there. He does not want to sit through another rebuild. And I don't know how you can look at the Cleveland roster and say next year we're going to be great because who's playing quarterback? You don't want to ride the Jameis Winston Express because he's not going to get you anywhere. He's going to throw a lot of touchdowns and a lot of backbreaking interceptions. That's not a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I think you just go BPA, and I think Abdul Carter is the best player in this entire draft class. Which leads me into the New York Giants, pick number 3 here, and I've got them going with what a lot of people think is the other best player in this draft class. That's Travis Hunter. I truly think in the NFL he's going to be a corner because he's already an elite corner. He has elite wide receiver upside, but he's already an elite corner, and that's what the Giants need. I think it's pretty easy. Able to mirror receivers really, really well. Very good ball skills. Obviously, the dude catches a ton of touchdowns. Great hands. Very fluid hips for the position. Not a whole lot to say about him as a corner prospect. That hasn't already been said. He can be an excellent corner in the NFL, and you can run some offensive packages with him too, just because you can, because he's that good. New England on the clock here. Options, they could go defensive tackle. Mason Graham, I think, would be a fine choice. You could go offensive lineman, get your favorite offensive lineman. I don't know if any of them are going at number 4, though. So I'm going to do what I think the Patriots should do here. I think you got to go get someone like Tetairoa McMillan, who I've been up and down on throughout this entire process. The bigger receivers haven't exactly thrived. You're looking at separators in the NFL now. I need guys that get open because quarterbacks want to throw the ball at guys that get open. They're much less likely to throw the jump ball, which is what McMillan specializes in. But the more I watch him, he's actually a better separator than I initially gave him credit for personally. And then when you combine that with his overall athleticism and size profile, I mean, this is a classic wide receiver number 1. Go get this guy for Drake May. We'll figure out the offensive line. There are pieces there. But you don't have a Tedero McMillan available to you. Now, obviously, free agency could change this depending on who they bring in, if they bring in somebody. But right now, the way it stands, I like Tedero McMillan, which gives me to another kind of chalk pick for me, and that's Will Johnson, cornerback to Jacksonville. I think he's got a case for cornerback one. Rare size, fluidity combination that we just don't see very often, especially at the size of 6'2". Excellent ball skills, excellent press coverage. This guy's just a dog. Straight up, this guy's just a dog. This is someone you want in your cornerback room. He gives off some prime Jalen Ramsey vibes. Just someone that's just going to take away this side of the field. I'll take away this guy right here. You want me on the number one receiver? I'll take him out of the game. We'll be just fine. Maybe he isn't that right away, but I think he's got that kind of upside. Big fan of Will Johnson. Pick six, Las Vegas Raiders on the clock. I'm in a best player available type of mood today. I don't know what it is, but I tell you who is not best player available at this spot, and that's Shedeur Sanders. I'm not going to take Shedeur here. So where does Shedeur go? Stick around to find out. But at pick 6 here, I've got kind of a surprise. Someone we're down on, someone we haven't talked about much, but these guys need a receiver. And Luther Burden is a damn good receiver, and we forget it because this year was a down year for him. That's a quarterback thing. Now, who's playing quarterback for the Raiders? I don't know. I'm not worried about it. Get a good player at receiver. They don't have it. They've got Brock Bowers. That's it. They don't have anybody else to throw the ball to. You need somebody in the intermediate area as well, like Luther Burden. Excellent route runner. I think he can be a star. He's twitchy. He's a natural catcher. He creates instant separation. His ability off the line to create separation is second to none in this draft class. And that's something you want, whether it's for your veteran quarterback for this year, your bridge quarterback, or if you decide, you know what, maybe we stink this year, let's dip into that 2026 quarterback class that has a chance to be excellent. And then we've got an instant separator like Luther Burden and a star tight end in Brock Bowers, and we go from there. I think Luther Burden has that kind of potential. And so I'm going to go with him to Las Vegas at pick 6 here. Now, Raiders fans, I'm curious what you guys think about this and who you may have wanted in this spot instead. There's options, but you just look at the team needs, right? QB, I'm not going with Shedeur. RB, probably not going to go with Ashton Genty there. Wide receiver, which I did go with, and then corner, the top 2 corners in the class are already off the board. So curious to know what you guys want. I thought Mason Graham, but it's too rich for my blood when you already have Christian Wilkins making top dollar and all. It's a pretty expensive defensive line, truthfully. So pick 7, we got the New York Jets on the clock. I hate it because it's a great pick. Mason Graham just falls right to him, and that defensive line is nasty. I continue to say it. A dominant interior defensive lineman, and if we're going to run a Rex Ryan-style defense, you got to be nasty, and Mason Graham's nasty. So I like that pick a lot. Pick 8, Carolina on the clock here. They've been getting Abdul Carter every time. It's just happened that he's fallen to them. In this mock draft, he does not fall to them because he's just too good for that. So I'm going to go with the best defensive back available in Malachi Starks. This is probably the earliest I've seen him. I think he's a top 5 talent in the class, truthfully. I think he is excellent at what he does, man. He plays all over the field. He's like a Brian Branch. Now, I'm not going to say that about every single safety that can also play slot corner, but this is a prototype player that teams are looking for, these kind of guys. This is the kind of guy you want in your secondary. This is a guy that can be a leader on your young defense out there in Carolina. Great size. 6'1", 205, heavy hitter. He's only 21 years old. This is a guy that can be a captain on your defense for years to come. I think you have to take that opportunity. The offense maybe is figuring itself out a little bit, so you got to go defense here, and he's the best DB on the board. So we'll go Malachi Starks. Leading into pick number 9, and that is New Orleans Saints going with offensive lineman Kelvin Banks Jr., who seems to have slid a little bit on here, which is kind of interesting to me. I think Kelvin Banks Jr. is best offensive lineman in this entire draft class. Offensive tackle number 1, he can play anywhere. Talise Fuanga was really good at left tackle. Put Kelvin Banks in there at left guard next to him, and you are in business on the left side of that offensive line. Put him over at right tackle. He can do it. Kelvin Banks has played all over the offensive line. He just won the Lombardi Award for best offensive lineman in the NFL, and then he won the Outland Trophy as well for the best interior lineman, which is shocking that he won that because he plays tackle. So he's just that good that he wins best interior lineman as well over all of the defensive linemen in the NFL, over guys like Mason Graham, over guys like Kenneth Grant and Walter Nolan. Kelvin Banks Jr. wins that award. That says something to me. That says a lot to me. Big fan of Kelvin Banks Jr., if you guys can't tell. Pick number 10, Chicago Bears on the clock. Another one that happens a lot, man. It's Will Campbell. I think he could stick at tackle. I really do. I think he'd be a solid tackle, and he gives you that flexibility. But if you put this guy at guard, he gives me Pro Bowl, All-Pro guard vibes. with that tackle flexibility, which is great. Arm length is a little concerning, and he's not as quick laterally as Kelvin Banks or even a Josh Simmons, which is what you want when you're coming up against those speed rushers. However, his technique is fantastic, and when he gets his hands on you, he's won the rep. It's over. He will clamp down on you, and you're not going anywhere. Great play strength for the guard position, truthfully. And this is where Chicago needs somebody. They need an interior offensive lineman, and Will Campbell has the opportunity, in my opinion, to be the best interior offensive lineman in this entire draft class. Following similarly like the Peter Skoronski talk from a couple of years ago, I think Will Campbell's better than him, and Peter Skoronski's been pretty good in Tennessee. Next up, San Francisco on the clock. I've gone back and forth on this pick. I know PFF doesn't rate this guy as highly as I do, and I don't really care, to be blunt. No offense, PFF. But, man, James Pierce Jr. to San Francisco is a fit that I love. San Francisco runs a 4-3 defense with their ends, with their hand in the dirt, which is why I pass on someone like a Mykel Williams, who, yes, he's more athletic. He's more of a freak, but he plays more stand-up than hand in the dirt. James Pierce gives you that power and speed combination. And I'm just not interested in trying to fit a square into a round hole. James Pierce is a better pass rusher than Mykel Williams is. However, he doesn't have the upside of Mykel Williams. I don't care. Give me a guy that is proven and that can do it, just like James Pierce. Again, I continue to go to his stats. Look at this dude's numbers. 21 sacks in the last 2 years. 71 total quarterback hurries in 2 seasons in 26 games. He's averaging 3 quarterback hurries per game. That's awesome. And he's doing it in the SEC, too. Let's not act like he's playing a bunch of bums. So I love James Pierce. Good size for the position. Young prospect. Guy's a stud. Should not be falling to pick 11, but he does. Pick 12, Dallas Cowboys. As long as your general manager is Jerry Jones, the pick is Ashton Jeanty at running back. It just is. It just is what it is. I don't know where they're going to go with the head coach search. I don't know who they're going to bring in. I don't know who's going to be the guy. Is it Dion, and are they moving up for... And if Shador's here, are they taking him? Obviously, yes. I think if the Cowboys pick here and Shador's available, it's going to be tough to sell Dion on not taking his son, because that's what he wants to do is coach him. I get it. I get that. I know some people, Colin, are down on Ashton Jeanty. And yes, I understand that this is a super deep running back class. We've got star caliber running backs available in the second round, even in the third round. And maybe this is a luxury pick for the Cowboys that they really shouldn't be doing because they have other holes. And I tend to agree with that. There are more pressing needs that need to be addressed. But Jerry swings for the fences. Jerry, if he's not in the news, he's going to get himself in the news. Ashton Jeanty is a newsworthy player. Let's not discount him because he's a running back. Jahmyr Gibbs went at this pick a couple years ago. You think the Lions regret that? Bijan Robinson a few years ago went pick 8. You think that they regret that? I don't. Cowboys don't have a running back worth a damn on this roster right now. Nico Dowdle's a free agent. They let Zeke go, not like he was any good anyways. I mean, Deuce Vaughn, that's what we got. And I know there's guys later rounds, but they're not Ashton Jeanty. They're not Ashton Jeanty. He has elite contact balance, and I'll elaborate on that in a minute. He has elite vision and anticipation as a runner. He is a genuine weapon in the passing game with good, soft hands, solid hands. He catches everything, man. And he's a solid pass blocker. He's not afraid to get in there. And yeah, you know what? He's a little short. He's 5'9". I get it. This position, it does not matter. I don't care that he's 5'9". If you're not going to put him in the dirt, who cares? When you look at his stats this year and talking about contact balance, he takes hits and he just keeps on going. He had more yards after contact this year. It was over 1,800 than any other player in college football had running or receiving at all. I'm pretty sure that's the stat. If that's not the stat, then he definitely had more rushing yards after contact than any other running back had in general. That's crazy, man. That is crazy. He became within 20 yards of breaking a record that has stood for decades. I do not want to discount Ashton Jeanty as a running back, and I understand the Cowboys have bigger needs, and Jalen Walker's sitting right there to play linebacker for him. But Jerry Jones wants to make a splash, and this is a splash. I'm sorry. Colin, I'm sorry. Pick 13, Miami Dolphins on the clock here. And another guy I'd like to welcome to the first round. Going at pick 13, Nate, that's crazy. It took me too long to get to this guy's tape. I understand that, and I apologize, Missouri fans. But y'all got a good one in Armand Membo. Look at the PFF grade. Look at the numbers. 9 hurries in 12 games. Less than 1 quarterback hurry. No hits. No quarterback hits at all. That's crazy. And 410 pass block snaps. Unbelievable. Unbelievable PFF grade. The more I watch this guy, the more I'm like, oh, yeah. This guy's a stud. Now, is 13 a little rich? Maybe. I understand that. He's nasty in run blocking. Straight up nasty. I've seen so many reps where, play's done, and maybe he might deserve an unnecessary roughness flag at the end of what he does to these guys because he puts them in the ground. It is unbelievable watching what he does. He's not the top. He's 6'3". They listed him at 314. I've seen anywhere from 314 to 320. He is very nimble for that size as well. He's got light feet. He moves laterally. Excellent. I don't know if you guys can tell. I just got into his tape very recently, so I'm all jazzed up about it. Listed as a tackle, I'm moving him into guard for Miami. I'm going to put Patrick Paul at left tackle, and I'm going to put Armand Membo right next to him and let those boys eat. Armand is the nastiness and the culture change offensive lineman that Miami needs to get back to trying to bully people. I'm sick of the softness, Miami. This is me making this pick, maybe not what Dolphins do. Maybe this isn't what the Dolphins do. And knowing them, they probably go with the fastest player at the combine if they can. I understand that. Armand Membo deserves to be this pick if he's available because you put him at guard and he is going to be fierce. I love watching his run blocking tape. And his pass pro is excellent too. He's got unbelievable agility, powerful hands. He's got the wrestling background I love. I mean, he's also got vice grips for hands. He gets a hold of you, you're not going anywhere. That rep is done. You have lost. Move on. Just might as well drop back and say, I surrender because you lost. Armand Membo, pick 13 to Miami. This guy needs to be higher on all of your draft boards. He needs to just go up. Indianapolis on the clock here. Easy pick for me, man. It's got to be Tyler Warren here. Natural hand-catching tight end. Can do anything within the offense, which is what we saw at Penn State. He threw the ball several times. He can run the ball. He can catch the ball like crazy. I mean, again, I know I'm just going to continue to show some stats here, but dude, what a season. What a season. 104 catches, 1,230 yards, and 8 touchdowns on a Big Ten offense as a tight end. That doesn't happen. You couldn't find those stats on any tight end in Big Ten because the Big Ten doesn't move the ball like that normally, especially not through tight ends. That's crazy. The guy's a freak, man. He just gives someone for Anthony Richardson to find underneath. As Anthony Richardson's extending the play, he will find Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren will get open for him, and he's going to catch the ball. If Richardson gets it within his catch radius, which is enormous, he's going to come down with it. I love Tyler Warren. I love the fit to the Colts here. Pick 15, Atlanta gets to keep the Georgia boy in town, Mykel Williams. I wasn't trying to trash on Mykel Williams earlier when I was talking about James Pierce. I just think they're different players. James Pierce fits San Francisco's defense better. Mykel Williams fits the Atlanta Falcons defense really, really well. And also, talk about a freak of an athlete. He reminds me a lot of Trayvon Walker. First overall pick a couple seasons ago for Jacksonville. Coming off of a very quiet double-digit sack season, by the way. Bet you didn't know that. Dude's 6'5", 265 pounds. He's going to run in the low 4.6, maybe even high 4.5s at that size, which is insane. Natural leverage thanks to his size and arm length. He can put his hand in the dirt and rush the passer, but he's a lot more of a stand-up 3-4 outside linebacker than he is a hand in the dirt 4-3 guy. However, I think he can do a little bit of everything for them. Gives Raheem Morris a star pass rusher that Atlanta is dying for. This pick has to be an edge rusher. Arizona on the clock at pick 16. I'm going to go with his teammate, Jalen Walker. Now, what is Arizona going to do with him? I'm not sure. Are you going to have him play off ball? I think he's the best off-ball linebacker in this class. Are you going to have him rush the passer? I think he can totally do that too. He obviously did it several times. Lined up on D-line 250 times, 311 times in the box. Jonathan Gannon is a defensive-minded head coach. He's going to want a chess piece to move around. That's Jalen Walker. This guy has green dot on the back of his helmet written all over him. This is a leader. This is a guy that will lead a defense. And I think that's what Arizona needs. They don't have many dogs or leaders on that team. Now I'm giving them, not only am I giving them a dog as a Georgia Bulldog, but the dog mentality that you got to want. So I like that pick a lot for Arizona. Moving on, pick 17 for Cincinnati here. Wide receiver, guard, defensive line. A lot of this depends on what happens with T. Higgins. If T. Higgins stays, wide receiver is not a need at all. If he goes, maybe more of a need then. However, I'm going to address the interior offensive line. When I did the Bengals breakdown going into this season, I said that the interior of that offensive line is a serious problem. It's not very good. They've got 2 good tackles-ish. Marius Mims, we didn't know because he only played 8 games in his entire collegiate career leading up to that point. But then obviously Orlando Brown Jr. on the left side. I think you go with just a nasty blocker in Wyatt Milam, and you drop him in at guard. Again, he's one of the best guard potentials in this class. I think he will transition really well. He's got average length arms for a guard, or for a tackle. Good arm length for a guard. I think he will kick in really nicely. I've loved him throughout this entire process. a former wrestler. He's a former wrestler, not Armand Membu. Pardon me there. That was a mistake. Wyatt Milam is a former wrestler, similarly to his past teammate, Zach Frazier, who is a former wrestler as well, who is thriving in Pittsburgh, by the way. Happy to victory lap that one. I thought he deserved to go in the first round. He's one of the better centers in the NFL already. I love Wyatt Milam in this process. I think he's the best guard available at this pick, and you address other positions later on in the draft. Seattle on the clock here at pick number 18. I am going to go with the uber-athletic offensive tackle, Josh Simmons. He only falls to this pick because of his injury this year. He's so good. He is vastly underrated. And now Seattle, they've got tackles. Cornelius Lucas, or Abraham Lucas, and then they've got 2 tackles, right? And they're young, 24 and 26. Does Simmons kick in the guard? Maybe. He could. Do you kick one of those guys into guard? I would prefer they did that because his athleticism would be wasted at guard, but I just think he's a best player available at this spot, arguably, and you cannot pass on guys like this, especially when you haven't had the best offensive line. You haven't had the best run blockers. Josh Simmons does a little bit of everything for them. So I'm interested to see if Seattle takes him, where they play him, but he can do everything and give you tackle flexibility because they had tackle injuries this year. He would step right in and be a stud for them if they needed him to be. So I like Josh Simmons a lot there. Moving on to Tampa Bay at pick number 19, I am going to go ahead and take Nick Scorton here. Nick Scorton falls just a little bit because he doesn't have that crazy get-off speed. He's not the speed rusher that the NFL seems to be turning towards, these freakish athletes. Nick Scorton's big. He's a classic 4'3" edge rusher, 6'4", 285. Just a bowling ball. And this dude's young. He may not even be 21 by the time the season starts. He may not even be able to buy himself a beer to celebrate his first sack. That's how young he is. Super impressive athleticism for his size, by the way. I think he's the best run-defending edge player in this entire class. Great pop in his hands. Great at using his arm length to beat offensive linemen. You put him in a defensive tackle type of spot next to, you got guys like Cal Cansey and Vita Vea. You're not running on this team. You're not. Because they're not going to let you. Because Vea and Cansey are tough as nails, and Vea just takes up 4 blockers himself. And Scorton is an absolute run-stuffing defensive lineman. And he has upside as a pass rusher. I'm not saying he can't rush the passer. I mean, he's had 12 sacks in the last 2 years, but he's more of the run-defending type. And I think that he is just a tough son of a bitch, man. So I like Nick Scorton to Tampa Bay. I think that'd be a really good pick for them. Denver on the clock here. I've been going back and forth between 2 guys. Denver fans are screaming at the screen right now. Egbuka, you have to take Egbuka. What if I don't? What do you guys think about that? What if I go with Colston Loveland, tight end, out of Michigan? I think he is the best pass-catching tight end. I think he's better than Tyler Warren, and I believe it's Harold Fannin Jr., who had a really good season, by the way. But I think Colston Loveland has that crazy receiving upside as a tight end, and Sean Payton's offenses need tight end play. They just do. Jimmy Graham. I'm not saying Colston Loveland is Jimmy Graham because he's not his size. Jimmy Graham was obviously a monstrous human being. Colston Loveland's not small, 6'5", 245, kind of a little bit bigger than Brock Bowers was, can be moved all over the field as well. He doesn't get nearly enough credit for being a decent blocker, at the very least, a decent blocker. The only thing you can think about is he needs to work on his route tree just a little bit. But like I said, he's not a liability as a blocker like Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki goes out there, it's a pass play because he can't block for shit. That's not Colston Loveland, so don't think of him like that. I think he is just an excellent safety blanket for a guy like Bo Nix to be able to check it down if he needs to, while letting Sutton and Franklin and all of their speedy receivers take the top off the defense. Pittsburgh on the clock here at pick 21. Nate, where's Shedeur Sanders? Why has Shedeur Sanders not come off the board yet? All right, walk with me, talk with me, Steelers fans. You probably hate this. I'm sure you do. What if Shedeur Sanders falls? What if people are seeing the same thing I'm seeing on tape, where he is throwing it super early because he doesn't have the arm strength to fit tight windows in the NFL? That is a real problem. I've really struggled with who Pittsburgh should take and ultimately landed on Shedeur for a number of reasons. First of all, even if Russell Wilson's back, I can't ignore how bad he looked down the stretch. I can't ignore that. And then are you going to go all in on you have to re-sign Justin Fields and pay him and then hope he's good so that way you can give him a huge contract next offseason? You got to reset it. Shedeur Sanders is definitely the second best quarterback in this class. He's an elite processor. Hikes the ball, reads the defense, gets it where it needs to go. He makes up for that lacking arm talent with his accuracy, timing, and anticipation. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Does that sound like someone we've seen playing in the NFL recently? And I hate to make this comparison because I don't love Shedeur Sanders as a prospect. Does that not sound like Tua to anybody? Not the best arm, clearly. But he makes up for it by hitting his spots and being the most accurate passer in the NFL with the highest completion percentage we've seen since Drew Brees. He makes up for it with unbelievable processing. He goes through his reads faster than anybody in the NFL right now. The issue with Tua is the injury concerns. Shedeur doesn't have those injury concerns. And I'd say he's a better athlete than Tua, although he is not an uber athlete like some of these other guys, like a Josh Allen is or Lamar Jackson. But Shedeur does a lot well. He does a lot very well. Pittsburgh needs a quarterback. I think Mike Tomlin would handle that situation really well. They need to figure out the wide receiver room. They've got a good offensive line to put in front of him, probably the best offensive line he'll have played behind in his football career because Colorado's offensive line stinks. So they need to address receiver later in the draft. But what if Shedeur Sanders falls to pick 21? What do you guys think about that fit to Pittsburgh? Maybe Pittsburgh goes up and gets him, and he doesn't fall this far. But as it fall, I don't do trades, obviously, as you guys know. So Shedeur Sanders, pick 21 to Pittsburgh. Curious to hear your guys' thoughts there. Chargers on the clock here, and they're going to go with a Michigan man, and it's a position of need too, in my opinion. Defensive tackle Kenneth Grant, imposing presence in the middle of the defensive line. Exceptional athlete, though, at his size, man. Pushing 330, 340. He's a freak athlete. He deserves to be on Feldman's freak list. They could play him. He's scheme versatile, too, which is super nice. You can play him as a 3-tech in a 4-3, or you can play him as an interior defensive end in a 3-4. I think the talent is there. I really do. I know he's the second guy to Mason Graham, but Mason Graham's just that good. Kenneth Grant is one of the best defensive tackles in this entire class, if not the second best, in my opinion. And you get Harbaugh and Michigan, man, which will make him happy. I mean, I love to do that when I can. Green Bay on the clock. Let's get crazy, Green Bay fans. You never do it. Why not start today? Emeka Egbuka. What happened against the Philadelphia Eagles in the wild card round? You ran out of wide receivers. They're all hurt. And let's be blunt, none of them are superstars. None of them are that great. There's a reason why you don't take them in fantasy football, because it's like the running back by committee, but it's wide receiver by committee. We have so many good players. We don't have any great players. We have good players. We don't have any great players. Let's get a great player in there. Emeka Egbuka is a great wide receiver. And at this point in the draft, getting him at pick 23, third best receiver in this class, getting him at 23 is unbelievable value. I don't know why on earth they wouldn't jump for joy at this pick. This seems like a home run pick to me. And like I said, they don't typically do this, but they don't typically have a talent like Egbuka available to them either. He's an excellent slot receiver with very sure hands, great against press coverage. I think in a LaFleur offense, he would be excellent. And he gives them, the Packers, something they have not had in a long time, reliability. I love Emeka Egbuka to the Packers. I think that's a great fit for them. And I know we need a corner. Benjamin Morrison coming off of an injury, man. I trust Emeka Egbuka's reliability. Get a weapon in there. You need receivers. They dropped like flies this year. Minnesota on the clock at pick 24. Probably celebrating the fact that they are going corner, but I'm not going Benjamin Morrison for them because that's not a Brian Flores corner. You know who is a Brian Flores corner? Siobhan Ravel is. Brian Flores loves his freak athletes, and you cannot tell me Siobhan Ravel is not that. He's also a complete lockdown man corner. Multiple interceptions, a terrible pass rating when being targeted these past 2 seasons. 6'3", great size for that position, man. I think that he's got the size. He's a size athleticism freak with excellent ball skills. He's the type of corner that they were missing against the Rams in the playoffs this past weekend. Flores wants to blitz and leave his corners on an island, and he doesn't have them. This gives him one. Give me Siobhan Ravel, pick 24. Houston, pick 25. This one is chalk. It's the worst secret in the whole NFL is that they need interior offensive line desperately. And maybe it's addressed in free agency. I'm not there in real life, so I don't know. So I'm going to go Tyler Booker. I've been going back and forth, him and Tate Ratledge. I think they're both really good interior offensive linemen. I think he's the first true offensive guard off the board. Ideal size for the position, quick feet, good hands, very strong punch. If he gets out in space, he's a little erratic, so I don't know about him as like a lead blocker down the field, getting up to the second level. I think he's easily avoided there, but in a power running scheme, he will thrive, and he's a lockdown pass blocker as well. I'm a big fan of Tyler Booker. I think Houston cannot ignore the interior offensive line here. Rams on the clock. They are going offensive tackle. Josh Connerly Jr., another guy that is flying up draft boards and will continue to fly up draft boards. And his film jumped out at me when I watched him, man. His ability to get out of his stance and into blocking position is second to none in this draft. His first step is awesome. And in the NFL, when speed rushers are all the rage, he's the perfect perfect matchup for that. He is the perfect guy to counteract that. He is, now, normally offensive line, like Wyatt Milam, let's just use him as an example because I've watched his tape a ton. If he goes up against a speed rusher like Abdul Carter, he is hoping to get out there and meet him at the arc, and he struggles to get out there. Josh Connerly not only will meet him out there, he will be waiting for him at the arc. I think Josh Connerly is drastically underrated. He's unbelievably quick, good arm length, a good athlete that played running back in high school, by the way, if you didn't know that. Good footwork and pass protection. I do think the run blocking is suboptimal at this point, but that's something we can work on. Think of Olu Fashanu last year out of Penn State. This guy is an excellent pass blocker that can get better at run blocking as he goes. Washington on the clock at pick 27. They've got to take Benjamin Morrison when he's sitting here staring him in the face. Again, a guy that's fallen a ton. You get a huge discount on him because of his injury this season. Lockdown corner. They don't have that. Their defense has drastically overachieved this season. Shout out to Dan Quinn for doing that. But he's able to play boundary and in the slot. Very fluid hips. Great short area burst. Good at keeping leverage on wide receivers and really good ball skills. I think he's got good size. Someone that Dan Quinn would love to get his hands on and have playing out there for him on the boundary or in the slot. Just move him all over the place. Benjamin Morrison, very good. Hopefully he's all good from that injury and it doesn't take a toll on him. But if it does, this is an insane value pick for the Commanders. Pick 28, Baltimore Ravens need offensive linemen. They need an offensive lineman. I don't think they need a tackle. Roger Rosengarten's look good at right tackle. Left tackle, you've obviously got Ronnie Stanley, so maybe you're thinking we need to address the Ronnie Stanley backup at some point. I'm just going to give him a rock-solid guard, man, and that's Tate Ratledge. I've got two true guards going here in the first round for the first time for sure for me. Tate Ratledge is a blue-collar, road-paving, power-running offensive lineman. Great play strength. Thrives in a downhill running scheme. Does that sound like a good fit to anyone else? Downhill running in front of Derrick Henry? Yes, please. He's going to move you. Great anchor against bull rushers in pass protection. And in run blocking, he keeps his leverage really well by staying low and getting up to the second level. He's really good at hitting and going on and continuing onward. That's what we need. We don't need these linebackers flying in at Derrick Henry and hitting him low and stopping him for a couple of yards. Tate Ratledge will get off of his block, move up the field, and knock those linebackers out of the play before they know what hit him. And there goes Derrick Henry for 75 yards and a touchdown, baby. I really like Tate Ratledge's tape. I think I'm pretty sure Todd Monken, if he's still there, was a Georgia offensive coordinator as well, so there is some connection there. So Tate Ratledge at pick 28, maybe a little bit rich, but I like it. Buffalo Bills on the clock at pick 29. I'm going to continue going with the defensive tackle, and I think the best available defensive tackle in this spot is Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. Impact defender against the run on day one. Day one, he is a guy that's not going to let you run on him. He's just that good against it. Very strong, very physical defensive tackle that will slot right in next to Ed Oliver. And the Bills will have two exceptionally tough defensive tackles that will shut down the run while also providing good push against the pocket. They can push the middle of the pocket. These are strong dudes. Walter Nolan is crazy strong. He will push the interior of that pocket. Along with Ed Oliver and their edge rushers, that defensive line, you're building this defense from the inside out the right way. This is how it's supposed to be done. NFL, take notes. The Bills do it the right way. I hate to say it, but they do. Philadelphia Eagles on the clock here at pick 30. I'm going with the guy I gave them last time as well. This is going to be edge rusher Princely Umanmielen out of Ole Miss. A guy that you guys should pay more attention to because he's a freak. Love the traits on him. 6'4", 255. Excellent production in the SEC. And also, one of my favorite traits is how reliable he is. He has not missed a single game for the last 3 years. Hasn't missed a single game. He's always out there playing. That is awesome. I love that for him. Excellent speed. Very strong guy. And also, this dude is freaking smart. 3-time SEC academic honor roll student. I can't ignore that. That's a good thing to get a smart player on your defense with these traits. Good hip mobility as well as a really solid pass rush plan. It's kind of not as good as Latu last year in the pass rush plan, but it's similar. It's at least comparable, and that's saying something because he has way more athletic traits than Latu does. And when he hits the Combine or the Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl, he's going to fly up draft boards. He will no longer be a guy you can really get late first come draft time. Kansas City Chiefs on the clock here at pick number 31. Although it goes back and forth. I'm doing Detroit's first. I'm going to do Detroit's pick first. It's going to be edge rusher Jack Sawyer, a guy I'm just sticking with. High motor, gritty player that Dan Campbell's drawn to. I can't say that enough. He's a leader. Versatile player. Deep bag of pass rush moves. This gives the Lions depth at the edge rusher position that they sorely needed this season that they just did not have, unfortunately. And I mean, we just watched him play against Texas and Cameron Williams, Connor Williams, other Texas offensive lineman. Cameron Williams, who has been considered a first-round guy by many, and Jack Sawyer dominated him. I mean, that strip sack fumble, he just, coming through here, just gonna hit the QB, take the ball, and go score a game-winning touchdown. Don't mind me. I really like Jack Sawyer to go in the first round, man. And it looks like the ADP is starting to rise on him. When I first started talking about Jack Sawyer, he was in the 40s to 50s. Now look at him. Pushing first-round guy. I think he's a first-round talent. And I love the fit to Detroit as an edge rusher for them. And then Kansas City here, I am going to go with an offensive tackle. And a lot of people have been saying, Cameron Williams is a good fit here. I don't love Cameron Williams. It's interesting to see Ariante Ursary fall, and that's who I'm having them take here. Kansas City's going Ariante Ursary, and Jack Sawyer's going to Detroit. Ursary's fallen a lot for me. I initially mocked him a lot in like the mid to late teens because of how solid he was this year, right? But that's the problem when you're evaluating these guys. You can't look at their production in college necessarily. You got to look at the traits and look at what they did and how they project in the NFL. Yeah, it's great. You got Mo Kamara for the Dolphins, just to relate it back to my team, had like 17 sacks last year. And he went in the 5th round because that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter what you did in college. It matters what you're going to do in the NFL, and that's what these guys are trying to predict. So Ariante Ursary was great this year. Offensive lineman of the year in the Big Ten, as I've said several times. But watching the tape, I'm a little bit However, I do have him above Cameron Williams, who misses out on the first round for the first time for me, because the Chiefs need an experienced player that can step in and give them reps right away. That's not Cameron Williams. If you need him to play right away, you're going to get your quarterback killed. He needs to sit at least one season to get better at the position, whereas Ariante Ursary's been a starting tackle for 3 years. If he's as experienced as anybody else on this list that you see here in front of you. I have some concerns after watching the tape. I think he's a little bit too top-heavy. I think he is a big-time waist bender. I mean, he's constantly leaning forward. Got to work on that. He gives up leverage when he does that, and I think he'll have some trouble against the quicker pass rushers. So he's got some things to work on, but he's just not as much of a project as other offensive tackles are at this pick in the draft, which is why I've got him going. So that rounds out my first round NFL mock draft. Some really good players missing out. There's no Shamar Stewart. That's got to be shocking. There's no Cameron Williams, no Matthew Golden for Texas, who is declared, no Tyleek Williams, no Jahdae Barron, who I really like. No, Trey Amos, no Trey Amos, who deserves to be in this conversation. This draft isn't the deepest we've seen, but it's also not the worst we've seen by a long shot. This draft has a lot of first-round caliber players in it, in my opinion, and they can't all go in the first round. There's only so many spots. So that's what I've got for you guys on this week's mock draft. Let me know about these picks. I'm taking some chances on some of these because why the hell not? Who knows? I mean, realistically, even if I was took it down to a science, right? And I was like, this is why this player's going here because of this, I'll probably get 25% of these right at very best. We're pre-free agency. We're pre-Super Bowl. Combine has to happen. So much has to happen. This board is going to look crazy different in 1 month, let alone 3.5 months when the draft is. So feel free to tear me apart in the comments, but be ready to defend yourself because I answer every single comment. Comment away. Let me hear about it. Let's talk draft in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel as there will just continue to be draft after draft after draft and draft content and player breakdowns. We've got every position divvied up. Every draftable player in the first to second round will be discussed in depth right here on this channel. So if you're not subscribed, what are you doing? If you're a draft freak like we are and you love this stuff, you got to subscribe, man, because this is where it's at. That's all I've got for you guys. We'll see you in the next one.